Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to GEEXX Watch. Excuse me. Today I want to talk about the 1985 romantic comedy, The Sure Thing, directed by Rob Reiner, an image of which you will see here. Yes, this is a VHS tape. Get used to it. I am old man, and I still have these things. This is not going to be a spoiler for your review. I'm pretty much going to spoil the movie. So I want to get that out right off the bat. Which in some ways doesn't matter. I usually avoid this as much as possible, but I don't think I can do that with this film because I want to talk about it. Because honestly, this is one of my top 10 favorite rom-coms. So I need to talk about it. And even though it's 40 years, 39, it's almost 40 years old. Be 40 years old next year. Anywho, story centers around young Walter Gibson. As the film starts off, he has graduated from high school with his best buddy, Lance, lamenting about how he didn't get any action his senior year. Comments that he had sex during his previous years, but senior year was dry. And they're like, well, we're going off to college, yada, yada, yada. Lance is going off to California. Gib, he's known as Walter Gibson. His friends call him Gib. Gib is going to a college in, I think, New Hampshire. Gib's kind of shallow, kind of sexist. A normal teenage boy, for the most part. Good buddies with his friends. Doesn't treat women very well. So, spent some time at college. Still not getting any action. He sort of tricks Daphne. What's her character's name? Allison. I dropped it for a second. Kind of tricks this girl Allison to help tutor him. She is his polar opposite. He is a slacker. He's interested only in partying. He's shallow and selfish. She's very career-oriented, very serious, very studious. So, sorry, I was distracted. The turkey just walked by the window. So, yes, I live in the woods. We have wild animals. But he kind of tricks her into helping him study because he's failing English because he's just partying all the time. And they eventually kind of have like a moment where he lets his guard down and kind of shows a little bit of depth. And then he makes a really heavy-handed, lame pass at her. And she kicks him. Which establishes their relationship. Time passes. He calls his friend Lance to complain. And Lance's like, Christmas break is coming up. I've got this girl lined up out here. She's a sure thing. Hence, title of the film. He runs down to there's a board, at the college for people looking, for rides. Hey, can someone give me a ride? He winds up arranging a ride with this cute couple. They're very wholesome and sweet. The husband is played by a very young Tim Robbins. And turns out she's also riding with them. So they're stuck traveling to California together. And they argue, they bicker constantly to the point where they eventually get thrown out of the car and left on the side of the road, which means they're then hitchhiking to California. She's going to California to meet her fiance. He's going to California to hook up with this hot chick his friend set up for him. So they're bickering and arguing constantly. And they eventually, through their shared experiences, start to relate to each other a bit. He starts to like her as a person, and she kind of lets her hair down and relaxes a little bit. And of course, there's the usual thing. There's the misunderstanding. Rob Reiner's not reinventing the wheel here. There's the inevitable. They start to feel attraction. They're not quite sure about it. He's going to meet this girl. She has a fiance. And then, there's the inevitable misunderstanding, which gets her mad at him. He goes to college. He goes to his friend's college, meets this girl. You know, she goes to be with her fiance, Justin. I think his name is Justin. And things just aren't the same with him. He's just like she used to be before this trip. You know, very bland, but he's bland. And so is she, basically. But, you know, and there's just no spark between them. But then it ends there. You don't see a resolution with her and Justin, with Allison and Justin. You don't see a resolution with Gibbs and this woman. And it kind of, you know, there is the inevitable revelation at the end, where they do get together. Back at the same place where he tried to trick her, make a heavy pass at her, the little, you know, foreshadowing scene. They kind of lean in to kiss, yada, yada. So I basically outlined the whole plot of the movie. So it definitely spoiler material. Why do I like this movie? There's a couple of reasons why this is one of my favorite rom-coms. And one of the things is that, unlike most rom-coms, this is plausible. 90% of what happens in this film could really happen. This is a very realistic romantic comedy. It's kind of over the played. Most of the humor comes from John Cusack's character just being just a goofball. You know, he's clever enough to be good at being spontaneous. That's where the humor comes from. He just kind of goes off off the wall on these random tangents and is just a goofy weirdo. That's where a lot of the humor comes in. But it's, you know, it's sentimental without being schlocky. And like I said, this, you know, it makes sense. Unlike most romantic comedies you see on like the Hallmark Channel or Lifetime, whatever, which plays romantic comedies for ever. This seems like it could actually happen. You know, these two people are very different personalities, kind of forced together through circumstance, kind of meet in the middle. The other thing that I like too is that at the end, the reveal of what happens, he does not confess his feelings for her at all. Well, not at all, but like that's not how this resolves. They're back in English class. They're shared English class. Kind of like giving each, you know, resentful, kind of, you know, giving each other like awkward looks across the room. And the teacher says, I have a surprise for you. I'm going to read out this thing that a student wrote. And it was something he wrote, in which he basically talks about the sure thing, about how beautiful she is, how gorgeous she is, about how much, you know, he thinks he wants her. And in the end, he turns her down. He doesn't sleep with her. That's the reveal. And you know, there was no big declaration of love from him. That was, you know, he had kind of resigned himself to not having her, to letting her go and letting her alone, but also confessing that he'd found someone that he cared about as a person. The teacher reading it in front of class is not something he planned. It's something that happened without his control. So I liked that. I liked that there was, that kind of flipped the whole rom-com thing a little bit on its side a little bit, because this wasn't something like, I have to watch a lot of rom-coms because my wife watches Lifetime and Hallmark. So I'm kind of, even as I walk through the room, I get a lot of this stuff in the background. You know, this wasn't something that he manipulated with the teacher. This wasn't something that she plans to do to him. She didn't know that they had a relationship. She just knew what kind of a person that he had been and found this interesting, that he had written something and written it well, and that he had changed, you know, both as a student, as a writer, and as a person. So she kind of outed him to amuse herself. I liked the teacher in this. She's funny. But when she reads his thing aloud, she turns to him and says, "You didn't sleep with her." And he says, "You know, how are things with Justin?" And she confesses that they split up. And that's when it does the fade to the rooftop scene where they kiss. So I kind of liked that moment. The other thing that makes this film really work for me is that the characters are also believable. This is better than, John Cusack's performance in this. We learned that this is a character that he plays very well. This is, this is his typecast character. I mean, this is his breakout role, really. He's been in other small parts in other films. This is his first big role that made a splash. But this is the character that he plays in several films. Same type of guy. Kind of goofy, kind of, a loudmouth, a chatterbox, a guy who says sarcastic, funny things. He plays the same character in multiple movies. So this is kind of the guy that he is, but he plays it really well. He plays it believably. And Daphne Nzinga plays her part just as well. You believe that these two are who they are pretending to be. And the banter that they have is a lot of fun too, because when they stop hating each other, like during their hitchhiking journey, as they stop hating each other and they've agreed that they realize they're kind of stuck together, they're going to travel together, they're trying to make the best of it. And they start to bicker like an old married couple. But like an old married couple, there's no malice or hatred behind it. They're not bickering because they hate each other. They're just kind of bickering because they have different personalities, and it's just what people who have different personalities do, He's a party frat boy. She's, a serious, studious girl, and they're stuck together. Married couples aren't necessarily stuck together, but people who've been in relationships for a long time and have different personalities, they're going to bicker. They don't hate each other. They're not yelling at each other. They're not angry. This is just how they communicate. And they sell that really well here. There's a scene in they've been picked up by a woman. She's pretending to be pregnant so they can get rides easier. She's got her shirt stuffed with sweaters and stuff to fake being pregnant. And there's a scene in the car where they're, the woman driver says, what are you going to name the baby? And she's like, well, if it's a girl, we're going to name her this. And if it's a boy, we're going to name him, I think it's Edward. And he's in the backseat like, Edward? No, we can't name the kid Edward. And they start, Edward's a fat kid who eats paste. You got to name him something like a good guy named like Nick, And the two of them are bickering, and she's just smiling, to the side as she listens to them bicker, because she recognizes them. She sees them bickering like an old married couple. So she's kind of enjoying their back and forth argument, friendly argument. And like I said, they sell it really well. And there's just a lot of cute little moments like that where, the two of them start having a dialogue and start, she starts having fun. She starts relaxing and having fun. And he starts treating her like a person, not like either someone who annoys him or someone he wants to try and score with. He starts to treat her like a human being. And he realizes that he likes this person when she's, when she's not being an uptight, person. When she relaxes and let her hairs down, she's fun to be with. Just as fun as any of the frat boys he parties with. She's just as much fun to hang out with, despite the fact that they have different personalities. So I guess my one criticism of the film is that both characters have a character arc, a complete character arc for both of these characters, and which is good. But his character arc is much, much smaller. She changes much more through the course of the film than he does. His only real change is that he realizes women are people and not just objects to be conquered. That's really the only change that he has. He kind of becomes a less shallow person, but it's, so that's my one real criticism that I did not notice for decades, because I'm fairly shallow myself. But I think I rambled on more than this I have about most stuff. In a way, I feel bad spoiling the movie like that and going through so much of it. But I really wanted to talk about it because this is, one of my top 10 rom-coms. And I don't watch a lot of romantic comedies anymore. I used to watch them more frequently, but I also used to watch more movies. But the reason I had this on VHS tape is because when I started adding things to my collection, this is one of the first things I bought. Because it was one of those movies that I rented frequently back when you still rented movies and didn't buy them. But I rented this thing often enough. I've watched it so many times. And you can tell it's you know, the cardboard showing some wear and tear, because I've had this a long time and I've watched it a lot. It's one of those rom-coms that I pull out once a year or so just to watch it for my enjoyment. So as you can tell, I'm gonna rate, you know, this is definitely an A. I don't know if I call it A+. It's not perfect, but it's definitely, you know, grade A material in my book. I don't know if any of you out there have watched it. I just spoiled the plot of 90% of the movie, or the basic plot of the movie, so I've left a few things out. It's still fun to watch, even if you kind of know a lot of the beats of the story. And like I said, it doesn't reinvent the wheel. It's a romantic comedy. It hits all the right markers. It follows all the same tropes that they all do. So no surprises, but it's still a fun movie. And John Cusack's, this is the film that made me love John Cusack. Did I say that already? I know I thought about it. But yeah, this is the film that made me like John Cusack. I've loved almost everything he's been in. I watch almost all of his movies. I really do. So, The Sure Thing, filmed by Rob Reiner from 1985. As always, thanks for watching. As always, if you like this, I don't know what to tell you. And until next time, good hunting.